of an odor of marijuana. But in any case, someone's arrested, cuffed, thrown in the back of a police car, brought down to a precinct, and held for 6 to 12 hours in squalid conditions, fingerprinted. If you're an immigrant, documented or undocumented, those fingerprints are immediately sent to the feds. So you're put on ICE's radar right away. You're fingerprinted. I already said that. You're processed. Your mugshot's taken. If you're lucky, which means if you're someone who hasn't been arrested before, don't have a record, which tend to be largely white people, you're given a desk appearance ticket, where you're released after 6 to 12 hours and told to come back to court 3 to 6 weeks later. During that time, you have an open criminal case against you. Good luck finding a job. Good luck getting housing. If you're an immigrant, you better be on notice. And also, your date is public for court. So if you come back to court, we've seen a lot of incidences over the past, ever since Trump's been elected, of ICE officers scouting out desk appearance ticket dates because they know who's going to be there. They're standing outside of court and inside of court. And we've heard of a lot of people arrested for marijuana get picked up by ICE at those desk appearance ticket dates. If you're unlucky, you're brought after 6 to 12 hours to central bookings, and you spend the night in horrible conditions waiting your arraignment. You're then brought underneath in a tunnel to criminal court, where your criminal court complaint is matched to your rap sheet and some other information, and then I get that file. And the file, the criminal court complaints all read the same. It's always the defendant was seen in hand, smoking in open view. And since de Blasio, I should mention, instituted a new policy of only arresting people for smoking, or for smoking and not arresting people for less than 25 grams, we've seen an uptick suddenly in people smoking brazenly outside, which I don't think is actually the case. I think it's just the police justifying arrests. But I see the same complaints. You'd think if the police are telling the truth that everyone's smoking weed outside, everyone's walking around with weed in their hand in plain view. But I go back and I talk to clients, and they're terrified. I meet them on the brink of crisis. They've been taken off the streets, whether they need to go get their kids, they're leaving people in need of caretaking without caretakers, they are not able to get to jobs, they're not able to get to school, and their first question is always, am I going home? And for marijuana cases, the answer is 99% of the time, yes. But they tell a more complicated story than what I saw on that criminal court complaint. They tell a story about a bad stop and frisk. They tell a story about innocence. I wasn't smoking, I didn't have anything on me. They tell the story of, I wasn't smoking, I had something on me, but they approached me and threw me up against the wall and found this small amount of marijuana. Sometimes they say, yeah, I was smoking, but I thought it was legal, or I was smoking, what's the big deal? And they're taken out from the back, behind where the judges sit, in shackles, shackled chain gang style, to other arrestees, brought and sat down on a bench, their retinas are scanned, and then they're hauled before a judge, 24 to 36 hours after they've been ripped off the streets. And at that point, the prosecutor then looks over at me and says, what does he want? Or what does she want? And I said, dismissal. But they say, look, we'll give him, how about an ACD? Stay out of trouble for 6 years or a year, the case will be dismissed automatically. 6 months, sorry. 6 months or a year, it'll be dismissed automatically. They say, we'll give them time served. I'll even make it a violation, so it won't add to your criminal record. Or if they have a record, I'll give them, a B misdemeanor and time served, the time that you've already spent in police custody. And I turn to my client and I say, look, judge is not going to set bail. You're going to be able to come back to court. I want to fight this case for you. Let's come back to court, let's do this. But in every case, the client will always say, I just want to go home. I don't want to have to come back to court. I got things I got to deal with. And the case ends right there. And this has huge consequences. They go home. Short term, it's fine. But the long-term consequences are, number one, each one of those dispositions has major impact. For immigrants, every single one of those could lead to deportation. A violation or a misdemeanor comes with an automatic surcharge, where if you can't pay, you get bad credit for 7 years. It acts as a lien against your credit for 7 years. The other effect that people don't think about is, by taking that plea or taking that disposition of an ACD, I'll never, as a public defender, have the opportunity to cross-examine that police officer and challenge that bad stop and frisk. So going back to what Harry was saying about hiding, being invisible, it hides police conduct. And on top of that, those dispositions erect legal obstacles for those people even suing in federal court for civil rights violations. They can't sue for false arrest or malicious prosecution because they essentially admitted that there was probable cause to arrest them. So what this practice shows is A, an arrest alone has enormous consequences. It's enormously costly from a human standpoint, but also from a fiscal standpoint, $1,750 for each one of these arrests. It insulates police conduct and in fact encourages it to continue. And for what? Once you get into court, no one seems to care about marijuana. The prosecutors laugh it off. They want to get these cases done as soon as possible. People are going home. What's the big deal, Scott? And I say, first of all, do you see any white people standing up here?